Good morning. Morning Musings by Melinda. Hey, thanks everybody for the comments on my hair yesterday. The truth is that yesterday it looked like I combed my hair with a hand grenade, so I just put it through the curling iron, but it's much better today. I appreciate you. Today I want to talk to you about Fruit Loops and wind chimes and spirituality and religion and understanding how it all works, because I think there's an awful lot of misunderstandings about how spirituality really works, and there are people that use their spirituality as an excuse for not working on themselves or looking at their shadow side, just like there are people who use their religion in the same way. For example, TV kind of gives us an impression of spirituality and people in my business that may not be really spiritual. So what I mean by that is I would never, ever talk to somebody about their dead loved one in a grocery store or in a cafe or in a mall. That's like an inappropriate thing to do. It's a boundary issue. And boundaries are very important in spirituality. So just like you wouldn't go up to somebody and start making out with them when you didn't know them because it would be inappropriately sexually, I wouldn't go up to somebody in a mall and start channeling their dead kid, brother, husband, whatever. That would be absolutely a spiritual molestation, if you understand what I mean. But, television shows show people that are, randomly giving readings in a taxi cab or in a mall or something, and that's just TV, you guys. That's not real life. Everybody's got a camera on, so you don't just hijack somebody and start giving a reading. It's inappropriate, and it's not the way spirituality really works. Okay, so understand that a lot of times we get into this Fruit Loop and wind chime idea of spirituality, and there's no groundedness, no down to earth, no permission to be human with human foibles and frailties and issues, because believe you me, people who practice spirituality have their own issues too, their own karmic profile, their own design for this lifetime. And sometimes they use their spirituality in such a manner as to excuse themselves or to, cover up their own issues, okay? Just like people blame the devil or whatever on bad behavior or, something like that. So does spirituality. So I wanted to talk to you about 5 excuses people make for their behavior when they're spiritual. The one that is very interesting to me is it's just honesty. Well, you know what? When you are talking to somebody, a counselor, that counselor needs to be honest with you about certain behaviors or how to understand yourself or how to improve yourself by maybe talking about your shadow side or some of the things that you may have that you need to improve upon. But if you're a lay person and somebody didn't come to you for counseling, and that's specific for spiritual counseling, and you just think you're so spiritual that you have to point out somebody's issues, that's not honesty. That's arrogance. And it's not appropriate to just barge into somebody's energy field and start giving them advice that maybe they aren't asking for. That creates karma for you. So if you practice spirituality and you think that your job is to try to teach other people how to be spiritual by pointing out their shadows, and you're just being honest, it's probably an inappropriate thing for you to do. You're the one that's creating karma. A lot of times when people are into Fruit Loops and wind chimes, spiritually speaking, they gather objects of spirituality and think that it makes them more spiritual, like the amount of crystals you may have, or how many hours of the day you may meditate, or how much yoga you take, or whatever. Spirituality is really an action. It's, taking what you've learned through meditation, taking how you honor yourself through connecting with your higher power and putting it into action in a way in which you're always kind, generous, and working with a discernment rather than a judgment. So, when you're really practicing spirituality, you're an example to others, is my point, okay? Sometimes people who are spiritual think they're better than other people, and they say, well, I've done all my spiritual work. I have nothing to learn. Woo! Oh, is that karma? As long as we're alive and breathing, we have work to do. None of us get out of it. This is Earth School. School means school. And just like when the kids were off on quarantine, we told them, hey, you may be off, but you've got school still. That's the same thing when you're on the earth plane. As long as you're here, as long as you're breathing, you've got work to do. Practicing spirituality has nothing to do with your own inner work. It's always a work in progress. Even as you progress spiritually, you have other layers of the onion to peel. You have other parts of yourself to move so that your vibrational frequency continues to be more and more pure in its essence, so to speak, so that when you get to the other side, maybe you don't have to come back and reincarnate here. It's really all about you working on yourself and your source and not getting into that, superior complex, the superiority complex, okay? A lot of times people turn to spirituality because they've had it bad. That's true. A lot of times people turn to God, turn to spiritual things because they've had a rough childhood or they've had some difficulty, right? And so that's a good thing, right? Except if they use those things as an excuse. A lot of times, for example, people who've committed bad crimes may find God in jail or in prison, and it's a great thing, and they have true remorse and so on. So a lot of times here on planet Earth, the negative stuff that we do and that is part of our lives can move us towards God and move us towards spirituality. But we're not spiritual when we use it as an excuse. It's only an explanation. It's never an excuse, just an explanation, okay? A lot of times people who practice spirituality in a Fruit Loop and wind chime way kind of shrug their shoulders and say, it's just the universe or God made me or whatever. And again, remember that we are given free will for purposefulness. And that's part of our purpose, is to practice our free will in such a manner that we are looking at both sides of ourself, shadow and light, and designating the shadow side in such a way that we learn from it instead of making it part of our identity. That's true spirituality, okay? And, finally, I guess what I want to say is if you are going to someone that is a medium or a psychic and the information isn't given to you in kindness and love, and it's given to you and it doesn't resonate, then make sure that you go back and check in with that person and figure things out so that you are able to discern what's right for you and what's not, okay? So, let's see, Mindy, I'm getting so sick from stress of my adult children's behavior. They are ignoring me since last September when my daughter, I can't read the rest of it. I'm sorry, Mindy, I can't read the rest of it. Daughter-in-law started a lie. Well, I'm really sorry, Mindy, that's a very tough karmic profile to have when you have difficulty with your children. And unfortunately, I do talk to people all the time that have difficulty with adult children. One of the most important aspects of spirituality is in the surrender and acceptance of something. When you're struggling and struggling and struggling, what happens is you circle the drain, as I spoke about last week. But when you surrender to what is and move into a state of acceptance, then the energy is more likely to move. So what you have to do is continue to send peace and love and positive energy to your kids and to your daughter-in-law, unfortunately, and continue to try to do the best you can. If it is something you can do without the toxicity affecting you, to send little notes or cards of love and forgiveness, okay? So, I love that, Suzanne. Yes, absolutely. When you think you have nothing new to learn, you get hit in the head with a club by the universe. I love that. Okay, so make sure that you're practicing your spirituality with groundedness. You're on the earth plane for a purpose. You're a human being. Human beings think thoughts that aren't necessarily always pure and have to reframe those. Human beings have issues and challenges, relationship issues and have to try to figure out where they're at in it. You're never above anybody when you're practicing spirituality. Just because I'm a psychic medium doesn't mean that I haven't had my own karmic profile. You guys all know that. I wrote a book about it, Diary of a Mad Medium. So it's really about understanding yourself in such a manner that your spirituality becomes part of your essence without you being someone who is condescending or putting some people down because of it. That was my point for today. And so I hope that you are practicing positive spiritual things today. I was trying to think of a word and I can't think. Rituals. That's the word I was trying to think of. Hope you're practicing positive spiritual rituals, journaling and meditating, praying and allowing. Have a great day.